Hi, this is Jeff at the Big Hairy Dog, and this is a quick run through of the physical inventory module in Prism 2.1. Prism 2.1 just came in a few weeks ago, and looks like Prism for the most part. So physical inventory is in store operations, merchandise, physical inventory. And I'm going to click new. Now I'm in simple mode, so I'm going to go through the simple mode all the way, and then we'll come back and look at zones in a minute, because those are very important as well. So PI 2.1. Okay, so we can get our cursor in the right place here. PI 2.1. All right, create, and that creates it. Now, the other option there that I kind of blew past, and we'll look at that in a minute, I guess, with the zone piece, was I could have created this with filters, which would have allowed me to filter it to a department or something, right? So here's our physical we just started. On the bottom, we have PI sheet. So clicking into PI sheet, I can see that I started a physical, and there's my start quantity and my scan quantity. Of course, scan quantity is nothing because we haven't scanned anything yet. On the top, we have a series of tabs, which are not obvious, but they are right there. So we can go to scan, and we could scan in items in, I guess, add counts. We could scan in items here. Like if I put in an item, it'll count it, right? And I could keep putting items in there, and it would keep adding to that count. Not terribly practical to bring your items up to the register and scan them all in through one point. Typically, we use a portable scanner, or we would have a third-party portable scanner that would send us files that we would upload, right? I do not have a scanner configured, and I cannot show that today, but we can use portable scanners with the software. So what I will do is I will use an import file, which I think is also a valuable tool to simulate what scanning could be like, right, if we're scanning products in. So let's hop over here to import, and the imported screen. On the bottom, I'm going to click on import. It's going to pop up and ask me to specify the mapping. Right now, I've got a couple of maps here, and I made maps this morning, but we will make another one, right? If you don't have a map, you can just click new right here, and then you can give it a name. So, you know, PI UPC import count, right? Continue. It asks you what kind of import it's going to be. So is it fixed length? Now in previous versions, it was always fixed length. We would say that the item starts on 1, ends on 12, and that the count starts on 14 and ends on 19 for a length of 5, right? So we would have a plan on how we did that, right? They have brought over the ability to have delimited now. They've introduced this, and I like this actually better. Delimited is a lot easier to use because item barcodes are not always the same length, right? So in fixed width, we have to specify the width, and we have to make sure that everything is that width. So the UPC code is 12 and an ALU is 6, and sometimes they don't work together, right? So in delimited, we can specify that there's just a comma separating the two fields, and we're using, UPCs or ALUs or both, right? And save. And anyway, now we can see that that's been added to the list. And I suspect we could use that actually. It's the same as this one here, right? This is exactly the same map as this one here. So we click continue, and then we choose a file. Now I have some files I've loaded out here already, and I have intentionally put a bad scan into them. For some reason, the import file does not like CSV. So I changed these to be a DAT file. So what I did is I just changed them by changing the file extension to DAT for data, right? And then it seems to want to use them, right? So we could select that one and click open. It's now knows the file, so we click import. It now reads the file just fine. And our imported quantities come in, right or wrong. Like we could have made some mistakes in importing, right? Or maybe we actually do have, 887 of those, right? Not sure, but now I put a bad scan in here. So if I want these imported files to be in the scan section, I have to merge them over to scanned. But would you like to continue? Yes, but you can't merge quantities until all the bad scans are resolved, right? You can't merge things if they're bad or they're broken. So over here on bad scans, there's our bad scan. I put in a wild one there. Now we have two options here. We could either clear it, remove it, or we could look it up. And we're probably going to look it up. Now, if you have a bad scan, then your zone should be small enough, large enough to get some work done, but small enough to go back and double check, right? If you have an error, and then you'd have to go back and find that item, and either the item has a barcode and we can correct it, or it doesn't, and you pick it up and you physically move it into a trouble area, and then somebody retags those. So if it's going to the trouble area, it's going to be deleted. We're going to clear it, right? If it's got a barcode and we can correct it, we just scan the wrong barcode, then we could go to item lookup. We can use our standard lookup fields here to find the item. I'm just going to click search. Once I find the item, I could just double click it and it would just swap it out and put the right barcode on it, be done. Very, very nice, very slick, very clean. If you clear it, it goes away immediately. Now, if you clear it, you gotta move it so you can count it later, right? So either way, though, now we could go back and we could actually merge that over into the scan section, right? And we would then have, so this process here would basically continue, right? We would go back and have another scanner, or now you can, there is an app, several apps I think out there you can get for your phone that will scan stuff and let you email them over to yourself, and then you have to create a CSV file, right? So the CSV files I created, which are right here, like if I right click this one we used just a minute ago and say edit, pretty simple, right? Comma, separated value, right? So there's a barcode, there's a comma, there's a quantity, right? That's it. And you can see my bad scan right here, right? So pretty simple file type. In Excel, you can save things as CSV and then rename them to DAT as the file extension, right? So that's how you get there. You get it into Excel, and then you save it as CSV and rename the file extension, right? That's how that works anyway. So to import again, we just go to import and click the import button at the bottom, not the tab at the top, like I really want to do. We pick a map, right? We continue. We choose file. Click open. We click import. It brings the stuff in. If we have errors, we got to go to our errors screen. In this case here, we will say that we're going to move that one. I'm going to clear it and say yes, and it's gone. It's out of there. So now my imports are good, and I can merge them over to cancel. I can merge them over to the scan screen, right? So physical inventory basically has 4 steps. We have now kind of done 2 of them. Right? We started the inventory, and by starting the inventory, we have created a count sheet, right? So we have a start quantity. The start quantity is established by hitting the start button. It takes the on hand, moves it into start. We then go in and add our counts, right? And that creates our discrepancies, right? So now step 3, once we've scanned everything in the store, is to look at the discrepancies, right? So we click on discrepancy. Now, an item that started with 1 and we counted 1 would not be present here. This is only showing things that are either counted over or short. Of course, I only have 24 items, and I've totally screwed their counts up in these imports. So pretty much everything's showing for me, I think. But, you know, we would then want to print this out. And I did a quick design earlier to have something to print out that was decent, right? So here's our discrepancies, right? So we have the start quantity, the scan quantity, and the discrepancy. And of course, I'm over on everything because I uploaded so much stuff. Yeah, like we have 7,676 of those. Yeah, sure we do. So we would then want to go out and research these and come back and make corrections to these as needed, right? That's the process of the discrepancy mode. All right, so cancel. We don't want to edit that. We want to go to PI sheet. So I just wanted to double check that I could, in fact, edit these. I have just been playing with this morning. So here you see that if we did have significant problems in our counts, right, we could go in and we could adjust these. We could say, no, we don't have that many. We had 885. We were too short, right? That's what we double checked and looked at our data here, right? So so we could go fix these just right here. And this is a simple mode, right? So simple mode lets us do naughty things, I guess. No audit trail here, right? On the other hand, it's very quick and easy to clean up. But if you know what you're doing and you don't have a huge inventory and it's really organized, this is very fast to just make your corrections. Once you've gone out to the floor and verified them, come back, you make your corrections, and you're good. So if we close this now, step 4, the last step, would be to accept the changes, right? To update the inventory. So at the bottom it says update PI, pops up. We pick our reason code. If you don't have a reason code, you got to go add one to system preferences, right? So there's our reason code. We click update, and it goes out and updates the PI. So that's this process, start to finish, pretty quick, really. Now, I do want to back out of here and go into admin console and merchandise and PI sheets. And I want to turn on zone so we can see a zone. We did not get to see a zone. And I do like zones. So if we go back around here and click merchandise, physical inventory, and new again, and we'll say PI zone. And you got lots of room here. So you can do whatever you want. I mean, you should probably have a good naming convention. If you have multiple stores, I would want something like, you know, store 1, right? PI, you know, 07 1922, you know, or something like that, right? You do have the ability to create with filters. That just gives us a filter. I guess we'll click on filter, and then we would have to select while we're filtering this. And then, so we could pick a department code or a vendor code or whatever segment of the inventory we're trying to do, right? I'm just going to click OK. And then clicking on that, now if we go to PI sheet, the difference is that now we have zones, right? So now at the bottom we have a zone button. We click into zones, and we then have to make a new zone. So the zone name also is very generous. We have like 20 characters here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's it. So we got 20 characters, but that means you could say, you know, store 1, men's, you know, section 501, or whatever you want to do. You could do whatever naming convention makes sense to you. Like if you have a bunch of these all at once together going on, and at the main, you want to be able to see what zone goes where, have a good naming convention, right? It's not a big deal. So zone 1, I'm going to say, now in notes, typically we would say, you know, who did it and what it is, right? So maybe t-shirt or something like that, right? So I like to know who scanned it, and I like to know roughly the area, right? When we create the zone gets created, we click the little checkbox, we go to zone sheet, and this looks very familiar now, right? So now we're back to the imported tab, and we're back to import, and pick our map, click continue, choose our file, click import, right? So it contains a bad scan, right? So gotta go to do our bad scan thing. So we can do item lookup, we can go find it, we could find the item, double click the item, corrects it for us, go back to imported. I created a print job for imported items so that I could see the imports, I could see the quantities there, right? And I had a little place to double check my count or put a checkbox at the end, which is all possible. The doc designer, you know, comes with Prism, and it's right here, right? This is the other one I just designed, but they're pretty easy to use. Physical inventory and physical inventory zones, right, is the section. You have to sign into this. You have to then pick your area. Then you have to pick your right design, and you click edit. Now, if you pick one of the default ones, then just do a file, save as, and give it a new name. But for the most part, like these fields here, like here, this is actually ALU. See that? So if I did not have ALU here, which I did not earlier, I just took UPC and I copied this, and I just dropped it in there, right? I just pasted it in there like that. That's not aligned, so you know, I'm probably going to want it to be aligned because it's going to look weird if it's like high. Now you can just hold the control key and go up and down, and it'll move it around for you. Or you could say, you know, highlight both of them by holding the shift key. You can highlight both of them and say that you want to like align to top, right, which is right here. And the same thing here, you can hold the shift key, and then you can align same width, which should be right here. So now it lines up with the one above it. Now, this is still the UPC code, right? Now, a couple of choices. You could just click in here and type ALU, right? Now, you'd have to know that that was the right thing to do, right? This little button here. So if I get rid of this altogether, so this is PI zone item, right? I get rid of this altogether. Click this first button. It opens up the list here, right? PI zone item ALU. Double click. Boom. There it is. Click OK. Click OK. You have it. There you go, right? So that's all I did is I just copied a field. I copied description 1, made description 2, copied it again 2 more times, made attribute and size. Then I had to go out and find the imported quantities because they weren't showing up. And then I added an extra column for the count that I might want to verify, right? But easy to do. And I could send this to you if you're watching this. Contact Big Hairy Dog. We could easily get a copy of this to you. This isn't really about doc design, but I wanted to show you that that's how I got to this right here, right? So, all right. And those UPCs are weird. I know that. Those came from the developer. This is raw data that they gave us that I'm playing with here. So let's cancel out of there. If we need to, I think we could change these, right? So if we went and double checked it and we found that there was mistakes, again, we just changed these, right? As needed. Then this has to get merged, right? Now it's no longer imported, now it's scanned, right? So the physical inventory process would then continue the same as before, right? So we would now have our scanned items, and we would then look at our discrepancies. Of course, you'd have to count all your zones and merge all your zones. But the beauty of a zone is that you could delete it, right? So if somebody totally screwed it up, you could have them they could go back and delete it. You could rescan that and re-upload it. That's the beauty of the zone process, is that you have that intermediate area where you're allowed to delete it. So if I come back out here and say new, and I say zone 2, right, and click create, and then check off zone 2, go to zone sheet, right? And it's good to run through this twice. If you're watching, it's good for everybody, I think, if you get to see it more than once. So import tab, imported tab, import items, pick a map, right, click continue, choose a file, in our case, zone 2, open, import. Import's fine, however, we got bad scan, and we'll go ahead and just clear this one. Come back to our imports. We take a look at it. We don't like it. There's too many problems. We're trying to fix it. We're fixing it, and it's just too much of a headache. We could just back out of here, I believe. Click on that, click delete, and zone 2 is gone. I can now go recreate it, re-upload it, right? So zones give you that extra layer of control over your process, right? That lets you reduce the physical to just this fixture, just this 4-way, just this wall, just these rounders, whatever, right? Just count these. Let's print this out. Let's have somebody check it. If it looks good, we'll accept it. We'll merge it in. If not, we'll delete it or fix it, right? Whichever. Anyway, that's the zone. And that's the difference in the zone process, really. All right. Well, this is version 2.1. Prism. Just loaded it. Looks pretty good. Got some very nice new features into it that don't exist in the earlier versions of Prism. So I'm going to say it's worth taking a look at. And thank you for your time. Hi, this is Jeff, the Big Hairy Dog, and this is a quick webinar on Prism physical inventory, and this is 2.1. So, start off with core operations, merchandise, physical inventory, and we'll start a new physical inventory. We'll run through the basic steps here, and then we'll go back and look at some other features. So, PI 071922. Okay, it's going to give the type of field.
created with a filter, which would allow us to do a cyclic